Our story begins with the introduction of dungeons that started to appear worldwide around 20 years ago. To compensate for the sudden changes, the world also starts to change as people started to gain skill. Roughly only a % of mankind has obtained the skill. Due to the appearance of powerful people, in no time an organization was formed that manages adventurers and dungeons, which came to know as Adventurers Guild. Now on our current timeline, in Tokyo City at the Adventurers Guild, a black-haired guy in his teens seems to be taking some kind of test by placing his hand on the crystal ball. As skills are necessary for adventures, we are then shown the status of the black-haired guy. His name is Seki Iori, and he seems to be skillless and with average human stats. Normally, people do not become adventurer without the skills. However, just to make sure, the receptionist asks Iori again if he is sure to join the adventurers. Iori tells her to register him, while thinking that he seems to be one of the crazy ones. Now, as he registered and was on standby, he overhears that someone else is also registering without having any skill. This piques his interest, and when he looks, there is an orange-haired girl with a bright personality registering at the counter. Looking at this, he thinks that there are other people beside him who are crazy as him. As he was thinking, a man grabs both of them and asks if they, two incompetents, want to become adventurers. So he offers to show them some ropes around it. At this, the receptionist asks Fukumoto, who came to the newly registered adventurers, to take care of them. In this world, the ranking of adventurers are from F rank to S rank, and the middle ranks, or the C rank range, has a lot of experienced adventurers because of their saturation. Fukumoto tells her to be at ease, as he is a C rank adventurer after all. Now on the way, the orange-haired girl, while walking casually, asks Seki why he want to be an adventurer, to which he just replies with a generic answer that they all make a lot of money, so why not chase the dreams despite no skill. When a monster in the dungeon is defeated, they drop magical items and stones which are quite valuable. Even the lowest grade magic stone will go for 10,000 yen per piece. He then looks down with quite a sad face and thinks that he has a reason to earn money no matter what it takes. Then we are shown a glimpse of his life before today, as he daily works hard with part-time and other manual labor work and returns home where her sister is always there for her. Ever since his parents disappeared, he has been providing her sister's daily expenses and tuitions. They were poor, but they were quite happy until one day. When he returned from his daily work, he tries to look for his sister, whom he found collapsed on the floor. When she was taken to the hospital, the doctors tell him that his sister has gotten a skill which is eating her own body. It's known as incompatible skill syndrome. It is quite rare, and she is the first ever case in Japan. The doctor adds the only treatment that has ever been created is in the US. At this, Seki gets worried as the treatment fees must be insanely high. The doctor tells him at the minimum it will take 500 million yen. Now back to the current time, where the orange-haired girl is talking about how adventurers chase their dreams and how one end up longing for stuff. Seki just closed the topic with a mild response. While talking, they reach the gate point where the adventurers are already waiting for the both of them. Looking at them, Fukumoto explains about them having no skill. Hearing them having talked down on skill-less people makes the orange-haired girl nervous, because in this industry, the people not having skills are known as the incompetents and gets often teased by those having skills. The adventurers place their hand forward and says them to learn a thing or two from them. The girl nervously shakes their hand, while Seki just greets in formal way. Now they ask them to follow them, and they will explain the rules in the meanwhile. The girl rushes in, and Seki think he would have preferred if they had told them beforehand. With this, he starts to move toward the gate. On the way, if looks at his status window and thinks if he is incompetent, then what he is looking at right now. At this, we are shown his status screen again, but this time he has a skill called Forbidden Restriction. He then tells that at the guild it did not display it because it is a hidden skill, and what this do is quite simple. The skill allows the user to use their previous life magic in exchange of skill points obtained, and in this way no MP will be consumed. In short, his goal is to get stronger and level up to obtain skill points. With those points, he will restore magic he used in his previous life. To summarize, he is the reincarnated one. We are shown his previous life, where he always has been dominating his foe and magic monsters like dragons and wyvern with ease, because he excelled at magic and was known as the solitary Archmage. But that life, even with mastery of all kind of magic, he never once felt an essence of happiness. He has obtained a sister who is most precious to him in the entire world, and nothing can hold a candle to her. 500 million yen and not an amount to be earned by lifetime, even of one work to death. It's the reason he became an adventurer, to earn money as soon as possible. This amount even may be difficult for adventurers of S-class, but it's not impossible for him and his skill. He plans to make the money required for the treatment whatever he has to do, so he hopes his sister can hang in for that long. The scene then shifts to the dungeon, where Fukumoto and his team are effortlessly defeating the monsters. After clearing the area, Fukumoto tells Siki that they were able to handle the monsters so easily because it's only an E-rank dungeon. He then confidently tells the others to watch him closely, declaring, "This is what it means to be a C-rank adventurer." The orange-haired girl, Amami, responds enthusiastically, "Yes, of course." Finding Siki down, she asks him if something has happened to him, to which he just replies he is okay, but she, Amami, seems to be enjoying herself in the dungeon. Siki realizes that the adventurers are not planning to teach them anything. He just accepts that it is better than having being threatened by them instead. As he was deep in thought, Amami replies to his previous question that she always has dreamed about being an adventurer, so of course she is excited to see them in action. Seeing her enthusiasm, he tells that they need to observe them closely to learn. As they were fighting, a monster seems to be about to attack them as they were warned by the adventurers. Luckily, a pillar falls on it, killing it. Looking at the scene, Fukumoto asks them if they are all right. Amami replies that they are all right, and then says to Siki how lucky they were that the pillar fell in time. Siki looks at his sword and replies that they were lucky indeed. Now at the boss chamber, they reach at its entrance. With confidence, they enters the room. As they entered, the surroundings abruptly changed into a stark white room. A mechanical voice echoed, stating that the dungeon conditions had been cleared. It listed them, reaching the boss room without taking damage, bringing 2 newcomers, and accompanying one who had not yet awakened. Immediately after, the voice announced the spawning of an extra boss. A large, intimidating minotaur appeared, wielding a massive blade. With a thunderous roar, the chamber's entrance sealed shut, trapping everyone inside. In a panic, Amami asked Siki if the adventurers would be able to handle the boss. He replied grimly that all they could do now was watch and hope. What followed was less of a battle and more of a massacre. The boss was effortlessly one-shotting the tank. Siki quickly assessed the situation. If they kept charging him blindly, they'd be countered and picked off. Without wasting time, he ran toward the boss, hoping he had something that might help. Just as Fukumoto was about to be struck down, he lamented that he had failed to avenge his fallen friend. At that moment, Siki rushed in and parried the boss's attack. Shocked, Fukumoto looked at him. Amid the chaos, Siki told him he had a plan and asked him to cooperate. The protagonist pondered over the hidden skill known as Forbidden Restriction. There had to be a reason why it was labeled as forbidden and restricted. He realized that once he acquired a skill, the Forbidden Restriction would allow him to use magic without expending any MP. However, the cost was severe. His spells would be sealed initially. Even though he possessed magic circuits within his body, he couldn't activate any magic. But once he freed himself from these restrictions, he would surpass the power he wielded in his previous life. Meanwhile, deep within the dungeon, Siki was trying to convince Fukumoto to support his strategy. Fukumoto, baffled by Siki's sudden command and movements, questioned whether Siki was truly incompetent or if he had been pretending. Frustrated, he demanded to know if Siki had lied to them all along. But Siki, remaining calm, told him to save the interrogation for later. They had bigger problems at hand. Defeating the enemy took precedence over anything else. He asked Fukumoto and the others to buy him some time. Amid the chaos, Fukumoto reluctantly agreed, saying he would do whatever he could. As the boss charged, a magical attack from a worn-out party member disrupted its advance. Though battered and fatigued, the attackers sought revenge for their fallen teammate. As the intense battle continued, Fukumoto asked how much time Siki needed. Siki replied that 3 minutes would suffice. Hearing this, Fukumoto groaned in dismay, muttering that this might be the end for him. In that moment, Siki recalled his previous life's battle against the Minotaurs. Those monstrous beings were leagues beyond anything found in the current dungeon, and if things stayed as they were, his party would be annihilated. Urgently, he rushed over to Amami. Amami, still shaken, asked how he had managed to parry the boss's previous attack. Siki replied that he might have found a way to defeat it. He then asked for her help in executing his plan. Terrified at the thought of confronting the boss, Amami froze. Siki reminded her of her dreams. Had she not always wanted to become an adventurer? Caught off guard by his words, she hesitated, but after a moment of reflection, she agreed to help and asked what her role would be. Siki, noting their limited time, simply instructed her to follow his lead. He asked her to sit still, then came behind her and raised his hand, reinforcing it with a subtle magic spell. Before proceeding, he asked her not to get angry. As she started to turn around, he suddenly put his hand on her back. Flustered, Amami gasped, but Siki quickly tells Amami to, please trust him. He understood that Minotaurs were vulnerable to magic, but their current lack of firepower and low levels made it impossible to deal a fatal blow. And due to forbidden restriction, he couldn't cast any spells himself. So he decided to utilize Amami's magic circuits instead. By manipulating her circuits and guiding the necessary movements, he could channel magic through her. Despite his logical approach, Siki couldn't help but feel awkward. Amami's patience eventually wore thin, and she asked him to stop. But just then, she felt a sudden surge of power course through her body. Do you feel stronger? Siki asked. Amami blinked, confused. What did you do to me? I've made it so you can now use magical power, he replied. But I'm skill-less, she said, bewildered. How is that even possible? You have a talent for it. Siki answered, I can't use magic for now, so I'm relying on you. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Amami tried her best to remain focused. Back at the front lines, chaos reigned. Fukumoto's party was nearing collapse, exhausted and barely able to stand. He shouted toward Siki, urging him to hurry. If you're going to do something, do it now. We're not going to last much longer. Amami, now under immense pressure, looked at Siki nervously. He told her to repeat the incantation after him. I'll be speaking an unfamiliar language, he explained. But I'll keep it short. Amami nodded and began chanting the spell with intense focus. Siki, observing her unwavering concentration despite her lack of combat experience, felt a sense of comfort. As the Minotaur advanced toward Fukumoto to deliver the final blow, Siki gave the signal. Amami, raise your hand and point it at the boss. Pretend you're aiming a weapon. She followed his instruction. Now repeat the words. The chant translated to Crimson Lotus Fireball. A massive fireball erupted from her hand, hurtling toward the Minotaur. The beast, caught off guard, couldn't react in time. The fireball struck with overwhelming force, and bringing it down with a single, devastating blast. Amami stared at the aftermath in disbelief. That was incredible, she whispered, impressed by the display of power. But Siki quickly corrected her. That wasn't me, it was all you. She blushed and thanked him, and a glowing pop-up menu appeared before them. The system displayed the item obtained, a B-rank twin-handed axe, once wielded by the boss itself. Additionally, a crimson crystal gleamed within the boss's chamber. Another notification popped up, a level-up prompt accompanied by a new title, Reincarnated Archmage. After the battle in the dungeon, Siki and Amami exited and immediately called for emergency assistance for the injured. Fortunately, no one had died, but several adventurers were severely wounded. Siki admitted he had no excuse for what they went through. Deep inside the dungeon core remained intact. Destroying it would cause the entire dungeon to collapse. However, in some cases, the core is preserved to convert the area into a training ground for adventurers. Siki examined it carefully. It reminded him of the technology from his own world. Later, at the Adventurers Guild, Siki and Amami waited patiently. They had submitted their adventurer cards, which recorded the monsters they had defeated. These records were used for fairly distributing rewards based on each individual's contribution. A guild official approached them, introduced himself, and returned their cards. He mentioned he had a few questions regarding the extra boss found in the dungeon. Siki began to worry. He wasn't sure whether Amami would keep her promise or not. A brief flashback showed the moment Siki had asked her to keep the fact that she gained magical powers through his help a secret. When she asked him why, he explained that it would only bring unnecessary attention, especially from the guild, and he didn't want to be constantly bothered. He needed to earn money quickly, without distractions. Understanding there was more to his story, Amami agreed. Then, somewhat hesitantly, She asked for a favor. She wanted to become his disciple. Siki paused before refusing. Amami's expression fell, but he clarified his reasoning. It wasn't because he found her bothersome. Instead, it was due to her reaction in the dungeon. He didn't believe she was cut out to be an adventurer. Teaching her magic could one day lead her to a death she wasn't prepared for. Amami took his words to heart and quietly admitted he might be right. Back in the present, during the debriefing, Hamada from the Guild Affairs Department referenced their report, which stated that the Minotaur had been weakened and that, when the Fukumoto party was on the brink of death, Amami had delivered the final blow. Siki interjected, claiming they didn't have the skill to defeat such a powerful enemy on their own. Amami nodded in agreement. Hamada then asked what she was doing while the group was fighting. Amami replied that she had been watching from the sidelines and only joined the battle at the last moment, delivering the finishing blow with Siki's help. Siki confirmed her statement. Satisfied, Hamada noted that this explained why she was registered as the one who landed the final hit. Convinced by their explanation, Hamada pulled out 2 envelopes and handed one to each of them as their reward for defeating the boss. They thanked him and opened the envelopes. Siki expected maybe 20,000 yen. But to his surprise, the amount inside was 250,000 yen, far more than he had imagined. Meanwhile, Amami appeared flustered, wondering if it was really okay for her to receive such a large amount. Siki glanced at her envelope and was stunned to see it contained 3 million yen. Hamada explained that, according to guild rules, 75% of the reward is awarded to the person who lands the final hit, while the remaining 25% is divided among the rest of the contributors. The system was designed to ensure fairness by rewarding those who dealt the finishing blow and contributed critical damage. He added that if they had been registered as part of a clan, the reward would have been evenly split among the members. He encouraged them to consider joining a clan in the future. With that, Hamada took his leave, remarking that the guild had high expectations for both of them. Siki chuckled and replied, "We're just a couple of incompetents, but we'll do our best." As Siki walked home, he reflected on how he had earned 250,000 yen on his very first day, an amount equal to what he used to make in an entire month. He couldn't help but be amazed. Along the way, Amami tried to hand him her share of the reward, saying she couldn't accept it since she hadn't done anything significant. Siki thought back to the battle and told her he wouldn't have been able to accomplish anything alone. He insisted that she keep it and added that it would become troublesome for him if the guild discovered she had transferred her earnings to him. Still hesitant, at that, Siki looked her dead in the eyes and said, "If neither of us needs it, then let's just burn it." Amami panicked at his words and quickly responded that it would be a terrible waste to destroy that much money. Eventually, he managed to convince her to accept the reward. They exchanged contact information before going their separate ways. Later that night, Siki sat in his room, reflecting on the day. It had been a good fight. He felt proud that his instincts hadn't dulled over time. He glanced at the check again and thought, all this for just taking down a Minotaur. The adventurer's life, it seemed, paid exceptionally well. Just then, he received a text from his younger sister. She had sent a picture of herself eating pudding and added a cheerful message saying she was feeling better, so much better, in fact, that she'd eaten 3. Seeing her smile and her small victories fueled Siki's determination even more. For her sake, he vowed to earn whatever amount was needed. To do that, he knew he had to remove the restrictions holding him back. Remembering how he had leveled up significantly during his first dungeon raid, he opened his status window and used his newly acquired skill points. The system notified him that he had reached level 10 and could now summon a management fairy. Moments later, a small figure suddenly appeared on his table. Judging by its size and glowing form, Siki realized it was indeed a fairy. As it stirred awake, it glared at him and demanded to know what he had been doing for the past 20 years without training. Siki panicked, thinking it was angry with him, and hurried to calm it down. He asked if it could introduce itself. The fairy replied that she had been created by him in his previous life. Her sole purpose was to manage the forbidden restrictions and to make him stronger. The fairy, clearly disappointed, scolded him for being lazy for the past 20 years. He tried to recall the moment he had created her, but no memory surfaced. At this, the fairy commented that he might be missing a portion of his memories. Trying to focus, Siki finally remembered something. The fairy seemed surprised, but he clarified that it was a fragmented memory from when he was dying. He recalled suffering from an incurable disease that gradually weakened him day by day. The fairy offered a hint, saying she was born after his death. The realization that both the system and the fairy were created posthumously led Siki to suspect that his reincarnation might not have been accidental. Perhaps he had arranged something prior to his death. The fairy quickly dismissed his thoughts, telling him not to dwell on it, as it would be a waste of energy. Siki agreed. It was likely she couldn't reveal more due to certain constraints. Maybe he had placed restrictions on her in the past. Her hesitant expression implied that if the circumstances changed, she might be able to share more. Returning to the main point, he asked her what she meant when she said she would make him stronger. She replied that she would update the system to help him grow more powerful and faster. The mention of an update intrigued him. It sounded far more efficient than simply exchanging points. Confirming his thoughts, the fairy initiated the update, introducing a new feature called Item Trade. Through it, he could obtain items he had possessed in his past life, though with quantity limitations. He asked if this included the contents of his old item box, a hyperspace storage he used in his previous life. She confirmed it did, mentioning that he had been quite the collector, and many items had been stored away. As he grew impressed, she quickly added that there was a catch, a trade condition. Realizing that every good system had its drawbacks, Siki concluded this limitation must have been something he himself had implemented. When he grumbled, the fairy playfully warned that if he was going to complain, she wouldn't let him use it. He quickly assured her he would make good use of it. Eagerly, Siki began browsing the item list. As he reviewed the valuable possessions from his past, he grew convinced that they were indeed his. He searched for one item in particular, the omnipotent elixir, a potion capable of healing all injuries and curing any illness. After some searching, he found it. There were 5 in stock, each priced at 500 million yen. Seeing the cost, Siki accepted that he would have to earn that kind of money eventually. Observing his expression, the fairy seemed satisfied, recognizing that he had found his motivation. She then told him there was one more thing he should know. During his battle with the Minotaur, believing he would grow more quickly under pressure, she had secretly placed a buff on him. This buff allowed him to earn double the experience points when fighting strong enemies. Siki let out a sigh, wondering how he'd even designed a system like this. Still, he knew it would be a huge help. After all, he had always chosen to fight stronger opponents from the start. With renewed determination, he declared that he would make full use of the system. Seeing him so motivated, the fairy beamed with joy. Now curious, Siki asked for her name. She responded that he had never given her one. He offered to name her, warning her not to blame him if she didn't like it. After a brief pause, he chose the name Sphere. To his surprise, she liked it and gave him permission to call her that. Watching her enjoy the name brought a small smile to his face. The fairy quickly changed the subject, demanding that he not slack off again. She then made a list of demands, a prepared bath, 2 desserts a day, and a refrigerator stocked full of ice cream. Upon hearing her demands, Siki sighed and reminded the fairy that all of it, baths, desserts, and ice cream, would cost money. She retorted with a threat. If he didn't comply, she could make the system stop working for him entirely. Surrendering to her ultimatum, Siki reluctantly agreed, deciding to treat it as the price for using the system. With a satisfied grin, the fairy told him to prepare for the day and then vanished. Siki could only think, well, if nothing else, she's like a storm, sudden and overwhelming. Now left alone, he began strategizing. Given his current condition, he figured he was somewhere between an F and E-rank adventurer. That gave him the perfect opportunity to grow from the bottom up. He reviewed the available dungeon raids, searching for one that would provide a challenge without being too overwhelming. The next day, Siki arrived at the gate of a D-rank dungeon, one he had joined through the guild. As an F-rank adventurer, the only reason he had been accepted was to fill the required headcount for the current raid team. One by one, the other raid members began to gather. Soon, a man named Takai approached and greeted Siki. The others glanced at him curiously as he returned their greetings. Takai explained that they had been short one member and were lucky Siki had joined. Another member teased Siki, saying he wouldn't be getting any loot. Takai tried to ease the tension, telling his team not to be too harsh. But Siki interjected, saying it was better not to receive any special treatment, especially since he didn't even have a proper skill yet. Still, he promised to make up for it in other ways. One of the raid members reassured him, saying there was no need to worry. After all, there were already 3 C-rankers in the squad, so the raid should be relatively easy. Hearing this, Siki realized that was likely why they had accepted an F rank like him. The same member confirmed his suspicion. Among the group was Ozawa, a D-ranker. From this, Siki deduced that the girl in the party must be one of the C-rankers. Judging by her appearance, she looked to be around the same age as his younger sister. With everyone assembled, the team entered the dungeon with renewed motivation. However, just as they were about to cross the threshold, Siki noticed something strange. The member next to him was making a very odd face, and it immediately raised his suspicions. Something was off. Inside the D-rank dungeon, the raid party moved efficiently. Each member demonstrated impressive teamwork, using various skills to defeat the monsters that stood in their way. Siki, for the moment, stayed toward the back, quietly observing and wondering when the right time to jump into action would be. Suddenly, he noticed an orc preparing to unleash a fire breath attack aimed directly at the party's archer. She seemed unaware of the danger. Not wanting things to get messy, Siki immediately rushed in to intercept. The other members shouted in concern, warning him that he could get hurt. Siki, undeterred, replied that he couldn't allow a lady to be harmed by an incoming attack. The girl blushed, flustered by his words. Siki successfully blocked the orc's attack and decided it was the perfect time to test out his new skill. The previous night, after reaching level 10, he had earned enough skill points to unlock a new ability. When browsing his options, he found 2 skill trees available, Fireball and Enhancement. Each tree would expand into a broader set of abilities once selected. He quickly deduced that Fireball was focused on long to mid-range combat, while Enhancement offered more versatile applications, particularly useful for close combat. Remembering that due to the forbidden restriction, he wouldn't need to expend MP to use skills, he wondered if this meant he could cast them endlessly. Believing Enhancement to be more practical, he selected it. Examining the skill tree, he found the right side branch was tailored for melee combat. With limited points, he chose the path that specialized in point-blank fighting styles. Back in the present, as Siki clashed with the orc, his teammates yelled for him to fall back. They assumed he was still skill-less and feared for his safety. Ignoring their warnings, Siki replied with a smirk, saying even a filler like him had some fight in him. He then activated a skill called Sonic Impact, instantly defeating the orc in a single hit. Thanks to the buff he received earlier, his experience points were doubled, and he leveled up immediately. The entire team was stunned by the power behind his strike. Having gained 2 levels, Siki compared the difficulty of this battle with the Minotaur fight. Though the Minotaur had been tougher, this was manageable, and the buff was clearly working in his favor. Suzuka's, the C-rank girl, approached him and asked how he was so strong. She questioned whether he had a skill, and he admitted he had acquired one just the day before. She scolded him, saying he should have told them sooner so they could plan accordingly. Siki agreed. She lectured him about the importance of watching each other's backs, reminding him that if anything happened to him, it would be too late. Siki nodded. She muttered that it was fine as long as he understood. Then, recalling how he saved her earlier, she formally thanked him. Siki smiled and graciously accepted her thanks. Meanwhile, the members who had mocked him earlier began to reconsider. They suggested splitting the loot evenly now. Takai agreed, saying it was a good idea. If he's this strong, the dungeon will be cleared faster. No complaints from me, he added. The raid continued, and along the way, other teammates began apologizing to Siki for having underestimated him. He took it well, admitting it was his fault for not being upfront. He feared they might have rejected his request to join if they'd known. But now, seeing how they extended a hand to work together moving forward, he felt a bit of happiness. With a soft smile, he said he'd do his best. The raid proceeded smoothly, and before long, they had successfully defeated the dungeon boss. Thanks to his buff, Siki gained double experience again and reached level 17. Back at the guild, the party celebrated their success. Siki reflected on how smoothly everything had gone, thanks in part to his abilities. When praised by the others, Siki humbly responded that it had all been a team effort. Just as the leader of the group began planning a celebration, chaos erupted. Someone suddenly ran toward the leader and stabbed him. Everyone froze in shock. The leader, stunned, turned to see his attacker, none other than Ozawa. Before he could react, Ozawa delivered the finishing blow. The team cried out in disbelief, demanding to know what he was doing. Ozawa, wearing a twisted expression, calmly replied, "I'm just committing a crime." At the sight of Ozawa's betrayal, Takai was consumed with fury and charged blindly toward him. Ozawa, unfazed, effortlessly parried Takai's attacks and mocked him. "That angry face doesn't suit you," he sneered. "Where did that bright smile from earlier go?" Enraged, Takai shouted for him to shut up while trying to land a solid hit. As Seki and Suzukaze attempted to intervene, Takai raised a hand to stop them in their tracks. "Stay out of this," he said firmly. "I won't feel at ease until I defeat him myself." Seeing how overcome with rage he was, Suzukaze tried to reason with him. "Don't be reckless. Think rationally," she pleaded. But Seki gently interrupted her. "He's free to do what he wants," Seki said quietly. "Just as I have ideals I won't give up on, I'll respect his decision this time." Suzukaze frowned. "But none of this is worth dying over." Seki nodded slightly. "You might be right when you look at it logically. But this world isn't always logical. What we're seeing now, revenge for someone important, it's irrational, but it's real." Though she still found it foolish, she began to understand. "It's stupid," she muttered, "but I get it." Takai thanked Seki with a brief nod. "Leave Ozawa to me." They moved into the chamber near the dungeon's core. Seki couldn't help but feel uneasy. The weapon Ozawa wielded radiated an ominous presence. It wasn't just dangerous, it felt as if it had taken many lives. Taking a peek at its stats, Seki gasped. It was an A-rank weapon, granting plus 200 attack power and plus 100 agility, perfect for an assassin-type fighter. What made it truly terrifying, however, was its passive ability. From its aura, the weapon had clearly been enhanced multiple times. Ozawa grinned. "Do you really think you can beat me?" Without hesitation, Takai leapt forward, swinging his long sword with immense power and knocking Ozawa back. But even after landing the blow, something felt off. That hit should have broken through Ozawa's defenses. He's hiding something, Takai thought. There's no way he's just a C-rank. As Takai tried to assess the situation, Ozawa suddenly reappeared, whispering from behind him. "That long sword of yours might work on mindless monsters, but against humans, it's too slow." Takai didn't have time to react. Takai's shoulder gets injured from Ozawa's strike. Mocking him, Ozawa said, "You said you were going to kill me? Was that really your plan, with that level of power?" Takai staggered, but pulled out a small bottle from his pouch. It was a gift he'd received for his birthday, a rare potion, given to him by their captain, a close friend, and someone who respected his hard work and dedication to the team. He recalled the captain's words, "This might save you one day, when you're in a tight spot." As he prepared to drink the potion, Ozawa sneered. "Really? You're drinking potions now?" he taunted. But before Ozawa could strike again, he was suddenly knocked backward by a powerful force. What just happened? He wondered in shock. Takai straightened, eyes gleaming with renewed strength. "Still think I'm a fool?" The potion's effects activated immediately, and a system window displayed the buffs: double strength for 5 minutes, followed by reduced attack power for the next 5. With a renewed grip on his sword, Takai was ready for round 2. Even with the potion's effects still active, Takai struggled to keep up with Ozawa's speed. Like a wild beast, Ozawa closed the distance in a flash, launching a relentless barrage of attacks, one of which cost Takai his eye. As the assault continued, Ozawa mocked him, taunting him for daring to challenge someone so far out of his league. Takai staggered and muttered an apology to Suzuki, their captain. "I'm sorry, it seems I won't be able to avenge you after all." Seeing Takai in such a state, Suzukaze could no longer watch from the sidelines. She launched an arrow toward Ozawa and activated her skill. Annoyed by the interference, Ozawa dodged the arrows and immediately lunged toward her. He pinned her down, his expression twisted in rage. "Weren't you told not to interfere?" Grabbing her face, he raised his dagger, but before the fatal blow could land, his attack was intercepted. Seki had stepped in, blocking the strike with his sword. Both Suzukaze and Ozawa were stunned. With a glare full of killing intent, Ozawa sneered and muttered that he might have to abandon the idea of earning a bonus. Seki calmly turned to Takai. Mind if I take care of this lunatic? Takai, clutching his wound, nodded. Please defeat him for me. Siki faced Ozawa and said flatly, As you heard, I'm taking over now. Ozawa stood and scowled. You're seriously starting to get on my nerves with that smug attitude. You really think you can beat me too? Before he could finish, Siki struck with sonic impact, catching Ozawa off guard. You're not someone worth being intimidated by, he said. Reeling from the blow, Ozawa shouted. You just got your skill, and you're already this flashy. Knowing full well that Ozawa's speed and weapon were deadly, Siki Iori made up his mind. He wouldn't hold anything back in this fight. As the battle was about to begin, Ozawa attempted to intimidate Siki by mocking him as just a filler. He rushed in at full speed, darting around Siki before attempting a surprise attack, but to his shock, Siki blocked it. Ozawa was stunned. This was the second time his strike had been stopped. You're no big shot, Siki said calmly, mocking him. The taunt hit a nerve. Ozawa's expression twisted as he snarled. Fine. I'll make you my target for the bonus kill instead. He leapt back and boasted that Siki wouldn't be able to keep up with his speed anymore. Once again, he began bouncing rapidly around him, moving even faster than before. But Siki remained composed. You should have warned me, he said. Your speed is nothing special. Activating the skill haste, Siki's movements became a blur, and he began overpowering Ozawa in close combat. Watching in disbelief, Suzuki was stunned by how strong he had become. Ozawa, too, was alarmed. None of Siki's movements, swordplay, or tactics resembled a novice's. More than that, there was an overwhelming, monstrous aura surrounding him, an aura that felt like infinite strength. In fear, Ozawa muttered, Just who in the world are you? With his weapon raised, Siki simply replied, I'm just a party filler. Overwhelmed and pushed back, Ozawa couldn't understand how someone supposedly beneath him in class and status was defeating him so thoroughly. Desperate, he looked around and spotted Suzuki's hiding nearby. Grinning, he rushed toward her to take her hostage. But before he could reach her, Siki appeared behind him and landed a powerful, reinforced strike. That was the most predictable move you could have made, he said coldly. A coward's plan suits a coward. Ozawa struck hard, tried to retaliate with a skill, but nothing happened. It's over, Siki said. You can't use your skills anymore. What did you do to me? Ozawa stammered. Siki gave a casual shrug. He knew that skills and magic both relied on mana, which flowed through the body's magic circuits. With his last strike, he had precisely hit a weak point, shutting down Ozawa's mana channels, much like striking a pressure point. Now Ozawa's mana was blocked, and his skills were unusable. Realizing the extent of his disadvantage, Ozawa was filled with despair. His speed had been countered, his skills neutralized. He had been completely cornered by Siki. Then, Ozawa glanced at his dagger and began laughing maniacally. Let me tell you something useful, he said, his voice unsettling. Kill me with this dagger. You'll gain more experience than you ever would from any monster. The weapon gets stronger too. Siki narrowed his eyes, but listened as Ozawa continued. Everyone knows this, but they keep it hidden. If word got out, adventurers would start killing each other for power. That's why it's kept secret. His twisted logic disturbed Suzuki's. Ozawa extended the dagger toward Siki. Take it. Kill me. Experience it for yourself. But Siki's expression softened. I feel sorry for you. The words stunned both Suzuki's and Ozawa. Siki continued. I can understand the desperation, the desire to escape the curse of weakness, the hunger to grow stronger. If I didn't have the system with me, maybe I would have followed the same path just to save my sister. He recalled people from his past life who had been forced to abandon morality in their pursuit of power. When you're backed into a corner, you stop being picky about your methods. Infuriated, Ozawa growled. What do you even know about me? Nothing, Siki admitted. But I don't need to. Maybe we really are the same. Those words alarmed Suzuki's, and Ozawa kept shouting. Then kill me. If we're the same, do it. But Siki shook his head. No. If I kill you now, a part of me dies too. And I'm not willing to lose that part of myself. Ozawa clenched his teeth. What a naive mindset. Suddenly, smoke filled the chamber. Ozawa had activated a hidden smoke bomb from his mouth. In the chaos, he attempted to end his own life, hoping to shatter Siki's ideals by forcing him to witness it. Suzuki screamed in panic. Stop! But Siki rushed forward, piercing through the smoke, and knocked Ozawa unconscious just in time. Don't die so easily, he said. You still have to atone for your sins. As the dust settled and the fight came to an end, Suzuki approached Siki. When you said you might be the same as him, did you really mean that? He gave her a faint smile. Maybe I felt like it in the moment. She shook her head. Well, I don't see it. You refused to kill him. You saved him. That's not something the same person would do. Smiling gently, he asked, Were you worried about me? She blushed and yelled. Of course I was. You were giving off seriously scary vibes back there. With a chuckle, Siki reached out and gave her a light pat on the head. Sorry for scaring you, and thank you for worrying. Suzuki looked away, flustered. That's my line, she muttered. To summarize the events following the battle, Ozawa was taken into custody by security forces and promptly detained. With tears in his eyes, Takai thanked Siki, recognizing him as the one who had truly saved everyone. Thanks to Siki's swift intervention, even Suzuki, their leader who had been stabbed, managed to survive. Ozawa had narrowly missed hitting any vital organs, and since the battle ended quickly, Suzuki was able to receive immediate care and escape death. With the case officially closed, Siki retrieved 2 cans of black coffee from a vending machine and offered one to Suzuki. Only black coffee was left. Hope that's okay, he said. It might be a bit much for a kid. Grabbing the can with a huff, she snapped back, Don't treat me like a child. Siki gave her a look that clearly read, Classic tsundere. She took a bold sip of the coffee, and her face instantly twisted into a look of horror, as if she had tasted something vile and was on the verge of collapse. Sitting beside her, he asked, So, what was it you wanted to talk about? She glanced at him and replied, I want to know the secret behind your strength. Siki shrugged. There's no secret. Then, turning the question around, he asked, How are you working as an adventurer at your age? You look like a middle schooler. Slamming the can down with force, she shouted, That doesn't matter. And for your information, I'm in high school. Caught off guard, Siki muttered, So, you're older than Kotoha. Hearing the unfamiliar name, Suzuki tilted her head. Kotoha. She's my little sister, Siki explained. Suzuki grinned. Oh, you have a little sister. She teased him lightly, and when he asked what she meant by that, she continued, Your personality and calm demeanor totally give off dependable big brother vibes. Is that supposed to be a compliment? He asked. She nodded. Your strength and adaptability are incredible. Thanks, he replied, a little awkwardly. Still curious, she repeated her earlier question about his strength, but this time, in an exaggerated, cute little sister voice. Siki recoiled. Please stop. That voice is going to haunt my dreams. Unfazed, she persisted, insisting she wanted to learn the secret behind his power. With a sigh, Siki finally gave her a straight answer. I'm not telling you. You're so stingy, she pouted. Yeah, I am, he replied with a smirk. Not giving up, she began throwing playful jabs at him. No girl's ever gonna fall for a guy like you, she said with mock disapproval. As they bantered, Suzuki suddenly noticed something. Hey, give me your hand, she said. Confused, Siki held it out. She spotted a small cut on one of his fingers and immediately reached into her bag, pulling out a few band-aids. Grinning, she gently applied them. Her carefree, cheerful demeanor threw Siki off for a moment. It was unexpected, but somehow, it made him smile. Noticing the change in his expression, Suzuki leaned in. You definitely just grinned, she said teasingly. It was just a small smile, at best, he replied. A smile is a smile, she insisted. Maybe it's because you were being treated by a cute high schooler? Switching topics, she suddenly asked, Hey, want to exchange contact info? She explained that she'd been struggling to manage raid scheduling, handle data, and organize everything. Siki, slightly surprised, responded, If it's just that kind of stuff, I'll help you out anytime. Doesn't sound like a big deal. Without missing a beat, Suzuki immediately tried to recruit him for the next dungeon raid. Siki chuckled. Only if I have time. She puffed her cheeks and pouted. That's not any time. Then, after their conversation ended, the two of them left the guild headquarters together. As they walked out, Suzuki turned to Siki and said she wanted to meet his sister next time. She was sure they'd get along well, especially since they were close in age. Siki watched her go and thought that his sister might actually enjoy meeting someone like her. Later, after arriving home, Siki cleaned up and checked his phone. He found a few messages from his sister saying the nurse had scolded her again today because she'd played too many games. Reading that made him smile, and he replied, telling her that there was someone who wanted to meet her. Just then, a deep, menacing voice called out his name. Suddenly, smoke filled the entire room. From within the smoke, Sphere emerged, looking absolutely furious. She stormed in, shouting at the top of her lungs, demanding to know how he could forget. In a full-blown outburst, she listed off everything he'd missed: the bath, 2 snacks, and an entire fridge full of ice cream. The only thing he had managed to do today was the bath. At that moment, Siki remembered. He had completely forgotten about his daily tasks. Not a single one had been completed. Sphere glared at him and warned that if he kept slacking off, she would tamper with the system and make it inaccessible. Realizing how serious she was, Siki quickly apologized and promised to take care of everything properly starting tomorrow. He swore on it. Seeing how genuinely remorseful he was, Sphere finally sighed and decided to forgive him. Just this once. Then, in an instant, her mood shifted and she grinned. She had some good news to share. Siki narrowed his eyes. "What are you up to this time?" Beaming, Sphere declared, "I've added hidden dungeon keys to the item exchange shop." That caught Siki's attention immediately. A hidden dungeon meant new challenges and new power. After hearing the details about the hidden dungeon, Sphere explained that the key was for a highly difficult dungeon that required exactly 2 people to challenge it. This immediately piqued Siki's interest. Sphere urged him to click on the option, and a long list of labeled dungeon keys appeared, categorized by letters. Among them, one caught his eye. It had a discount tag. Seeing his interest, Sphere launched into a sales pitch, saying that desire always leads to action, and for that reason, there was a special half-price discount. Siki gave her a look and commented that she seemed a little too familiar with how the world worked. Sphere smirked. "No need for praise. Just use the key already and get stronger." Siki selected the option. "You didn't have to tell me twice." He noticed that even the discounted C-rank dungeon gate cost $1 million. Though he had the money, he hesitated. Sphere added, "The enemies inside are far stronger than those in regular dungeons. You'll earn significantly more experience points and skill points, especially useful for managing the forbidden restriction. With your buff, rewards will also be enhanced. It's high risk, high reward." Realizing that even a C-rank dungeon of this type was exponentially harder, Siki considered his options. Sphere smirked. "What? Are you chickening out?" Instead of responding with hesitation, Siki replied, "No. I'm planning to go for the 5 million yen B-rank dungeon." Surprised, Sphere laughed. "You're aiming higher? Interesting." She added that he could sell the items he earned in dungeons through the item exchange shop to afford the entry fee. Siki thought the system was incredibly convenient. "All of this," Sphere said proudly, "is the great inheritance from your previous life." "Then I should thank my past self," Siki said, and without further delay, he purchased the C-rank dungeon key. A glowing door materialized in front of him, leading to the hidden dungeon. "You're going now?" Sphere asked, surprised. "You just got back from a dungeon." Seeing his enthusiasm, Sphere smiled. He's definitely feeling it. "I'm not feeling anything. This is just normal for me," Siki replied. Sphere, clearly impressed by his drive, thought to herself, he truly is the solitary Archmage. "Thanks, Sphere. I'm only growing stronger because of your help." Worried, she warned him to return in one piece before he thanked her. "That's the plan." Sphere waved him off. "You're not dying anytime soon anyway. But when you get back, I expect some ice cream." Siki smiled, opened the gate, and stepped through, teleporting into the unknown. Meanwhile, at the hospital where his sister was admitted, everything seemed calm. She sat quietly, her vitals stable. But after a few minutes, she began coughing violently. Her condition had worsened. Trying to stay composed, she attempted to get up and wash her hands, but her body gave out. She collapsed, and her lifeline monitor turned red, signaling a medical emergency. Nurses rushed into the room and found her unconscious. Back in the dungeon, Siki found himself in a vast forest unlike any he'd seen before. He immediately raised his guard, alert for nearby monsters. As he scanned the surroundings, he noticed some fruit hanging from the trees. Walking closer, he inspected the fruit and froze. Lenaha fruits, he muttered. These fruits existed in his original world, before he was reincarnated. Seeing them here stirred up waves of nostalgia. In his past life, Lenaha fruits were commonly used in alchemy. They weren't rare or valuable, and adventurers never went out of their way to gather them. However, their presence here signaled something else. If Lenaha fruits are here, he whispered, then that monster must be here too. Raising his hand, he flicked his fingers and began preparing spells. He activated Sonic Stream and followed it up with haste, launching himself into the air. Judging by his expression, his hunch had been right. A blur shot out from the trees, fast, nearly invisible. Lightning speed movement. That's definitely the one. Siki narrowed his eyes. He wouldn't have to go looking for it after all.